Chosen one, what if I told you that God has been trying to get your attention for months? You've noticed the subtle signs, the restless nights, the moments that felt like more than coincidence. But here's the truth. This message is not just another whisper. It's a warning. It's the final call before a door closes, a moment you cannot afford to overlook. You might feel overwhelmed or skeptical, but that hesitation is exactly what keeps so many chosen ones from hearing the truth. God doesn't repeat himself without purpose. When he warns you, he expects you to listen. This is your final message. If you ignore it, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. So stay with me, because what we're about to uncover will show you why this warning is so critical and what's at stake if you fail to act. The sign that God is speaking to you right now. There's a moment in everyone's spiritual journey where they start to sense something different. It's subtle at first, just a feeling in your gut that something is shifting, that the world around you is no longer the same. You find yourself drawn to moments of quiet, moments where the noise of life fades, and you can finally hear what's been whispering to you all along. That uneasiness, that pull towards something greater, it isn't random. It's God speaking to you. You might not even realize it, but those dreams you keep having, the people who seem to fade out of your life, and the new opportunities that come out of nowhere, they all mean something. These are signs, carefully placed in your path, urging you to stop and pay attention. The voice of God doesn't always come as a thunderclap. Sometimes it's a gentle yet persistent nudge that tells you, this is where you need to go. But recognizing these signs isn't always easy. We live in a world filled with distractions and doubts, and it's easy to brush these feelings off as coincidence. You might find yourself second-guessing, wondering if it's really God or just your imagination. Yet, the more you try to ignore it, the louder it becomes. It's not just the dreams or the moments of sudden clarity. It's the way certain doors close, forcing you to consider a new path. It's the unexpected conversations with strangers that seem to carry a message directly to your heart. Maybe you've noticed a particular verse of scripture appearing repeatedly, or perhaps you've heard a message that seems to answer a question you haven't even spoken out loud. These are not coincidences. These are divine markers, pointing you toward a new direction. They're not random, they're deliberate. When you think about the way God communicates, you may remember the story of Elijah on Mount Horeb. Elijah expected God to show up in the mighty wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but God came to him in a gentle whisper. That's often how God works. He's not always going to shout. He's going to place signs around you that require you to slow down and listen, but that doesn't make the message any less clear. In fact, the more subtle the sign, the more powerful its impact when you finally recognize it. These moments, when you're reminded of a scripture passage at just the right time, when you feel an undeniable peace after a difficult decision, when someone's words touch a part of you that you've been hiding, these moments are proof that God is speaking to you now. Not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. As you begin to acknowledge these signs, something inside you shifts. The tension you've been feeling starts to make sense. You see that what you once thought was confusion was actually preparation. The uneasiness in your heart was God stretching you, calling you towards something greater. It's as if a fog is lifting, and the path you're meant to walk becomes clearer with every step. The relationships that ended, the opportunities that didn't work out, the struggles that push you to the edge, all of these experiences start to align, revealing a pattern. God has been arranging everything for this moment. You might even find that as you notice these signs, your confidence grows. You no longer feel like you're wandering aimlessly. You're walking in alignment with a divine purpose. This isn't just about noticing patterns. It's about understanding that there's a higher force orchestrating your journey. The signs you see are not isolated incidents. They're pieces of a larger puzzle that God has been putting together behind the scenes. He's been moving the right people into your life, removing those who hold you back, and opening doors that you didn't even know were there. What once felt like roadblocks now feel like redirections. What once felt like loss now feels like preparation. This is divine alignment at its core. God making a way where there seemed to be no way, guiding you toward a future that He's already prepared for you. As you start to see the bigger picture, you realize that these signs are more than just encouragement. They're evidence that you're on the right path. In this moment of clarity, you may find yourself hesitant. Maybe you feel unworthy of such divine attention, Or maybe you're afraid of what comes next. It's normal to feel uncertain when you realize how big the stakes are. But this is not the time to shrink back. This is a time to lean in. Accepting that God is speaking to you means embracing the responsibility that comes with it. It means acknowledging that you are chosen, that you have a purpose that can't be ignored. It means stepping into the light and trusting that what lies ahead is better than what you're leaving behind. True alignment requires not just seeing the signs, but believing in them. It requires you to take that first step, even if you don't know exactly where it will lead. Now that you understand what's happening, it's time to take action. The signs have been there all along. You felt the pull, seen the shifts, and experienced the clarity. The next step is to trust what you've been shown. It's a move forward with faith, knowing that God's guidance is always perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take the next step. Release the fear, the doubt, and the hesitation. Lean into the truth that you've been chosen for a reason, and let that truth guide you. Trust the process. Trust the timing. And trust that the God who started this work and you will see it through to completion. Comment signs if you've been noticing God's voice in unexpected places. Next, we'll explore why so many chosen ones fail to respond when God speaks. Why many chosen ones ignore divine messages. There's no question that life can be overwhelming. For many chosen ones, it's not a lack of faith that makes them miss God's messages. It's the sheer volume of everything else happening. Between work demands, family responsibilities, and the endless stream of information from social media and the news, finding a quiet moment can feel impossible. In that noise, the subtle signs God sends can go unnoticed. You might catch a glimpse of something meaningful, an unexpected opportunity, a gentle nudge in prayer. But then the phone rings, the emails pile up, and just like that, the message is drowned out. It's not that you don't want to hear him. It's that you've forgotten what stillness feels like. Doubt is another reason chosen ones often ignore these divine messages. Maybe you've had those fleeting moments of clarity when it felt like God was trying to get your attention, but then the questions creep in. What if it's all in my head? What if I'm making a mistake? Those doubts can become so loud that they overshadow the original sign. You find yourself rationalizing the experience, convincing yourself it's a coincidence or just your imagination. You start second-guessing what you felt in your heart, and before long, that doubt becomes a filter through which you view every potential message. It's not that God isn't speaking. It's that the voice of doubt has drowned him out. Fear can also keep you from listening. Maybe you sense that the message God is sending will require you to change something significant in your life. It might mean stepping away from a job that no longer aligns with your purpose, ending a toxic relationship, or moving in a direction that feels uncertain. That fear of the unknown can be paralyzing. You start thinking, what if I take this step and it doesn't work out? Or what if people don't understand? This fear can become so strong that it feels safer to stay where you are, to keep ignoring the signs and hope they go away. But deep down, you know they won't. The longer you let fear dictate your actions, the harder it becomes to recognize and respond to God's call. Another challenge chosen ones face is the constant pull of distraction. The world we live in is designed to keep you busy, to keep you scrolling, watching, and consuming. It's not that you don't want to hear God. It's that you've forgotten how to make space for him. You might find yourself waking up and immediately reaching for your phone, filling every quiet moment with background noise, and never allow yourself the stillness to truly listen. Over time, this habit of constant distraction makes it harder and harder to hear the subtle ways God communicates. His voice isn't always loud or dramatic. Often it's a gentle whisper. But if your life is too noisy, you'll miss it altogether. There's also the matter of timing. Sometimes God's messages come at what feels like the worst possible moment. You're in the middle of a stressful project, dealing with personal struggles, or trying to keep up with a demanding schedule, and then you sense that he's calling you to pay attention. It can feel inconvenient, even frustrating. You think, why now, God? Can't this wait until I'm less busy, less overwhelmed? That tendency to put off listening, to delay responding until it's more convenient, can cause you to miss the message entirely. What you don't realize is that the timing is never random. God speaks when he knows you need it most, even if it doesn't align with your own plans. Even those who recognize the signs often struggle with the next step, acting on them. It's one thing to sense that God is speaking, and another to actually do something about it. This is where many chosen ones falter. The idea of taking action feels daunting, especially if it means stepping outside your comfort zone. You might find yourself saying, "I'll wait for a clearer sign," or "I'll act once I'm absolutely sure." But in waiting for perfect clarity, you risk staying stagnant. The longer you hesitate, the more you convince yourself that the moment has passed or that the message wasn't real to begin with. That reluctance to move forward can create a cycle of ignoring God's voice, even when you know deep down it's calling you to something greater. Despite all these challenges, doubt, fear, distraction, and timing, it's important to remember that God's messages don't stop. They may become harder to hear, but they never truly disappear. The more you ignore them, however, the more distant they can feel. The gentle nudges that once felt so clear start to fade into the background, and you might find yourself feeling disconnected, unsure of your purpose. But it doesn't have to be that way. By recognizing these patterns, by acknowledging the doubts, distractions, and fears that have held you back, you can begin to shift your approach. You can create space for stillness, learn to trust what you feel in your spirit, and take that first step toward acting on His guidance. Comment listen if you've ever struggled to push past doubt and distraction. Now, let's talk about what happens when you ignore God's warning. What happens when you ignore God's warning? There's a moment when the weight of not listening starts to take its toll. At first, you might think everything is fine, that ignoring God's warning isn't having any real effect. But then the cracks start to show. Opportunities that once seemed within reach slip away. Relationships that should have grown stronger begin to feel strained. That sense of purpose you once had fades, replaced by a lingering doubt and frustration. Ignoring God's call isn't like flipping a switch. It's a slow drift. You find yourself asking why nothing is changing, why you still feel stuck. The reality is that every time you turn away from His voice, you're choosing to stay in the same place, even as He's trying to guide you to something greater. As time passes, that feeling of being stuck becomes harder to ignore. You try to move forward, but it's as if you're walking in circles. The same challenges keep resurfacing, the same struggles persist, and it starts to feel like progress is impossible. The joy you once felt becomes fleeting, replaced by a nagging sense that something is missing. The peace that used to steady you feels more distant with each passing day. It's not that God is punishing you. It's that by not following His guidance, you're staying in a place that no longer serves you. You're clinging to what's familiar, even though it's no longer where you're meant to be. And the longer you stay there, the more you feel the quiet erosion of the life you're meant to live. Proverbs 29 verse 1 offers a sobering reminder. Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. Destruction doesn't always mean something dramatic or catastrophic. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the slow fading of joy, the steady loss of passion, the quiet realization that your dreams feel out of reach. It's the repeated disappointment when doors don't open, when the same obstacles appear again and again. This is what happens when you ignore God's warning. Not because He is punishing you, but because you're not walking in alignment with His plan. His guidance was meant to lead you out of that cycle, but by ignoring it, you remain stuck in the very patterns you hope to break free from. The longer you turn away, the more difficult it becomes to hear His voice. At first, the signs and nudges are clear. You know He's calling you to take a step, to move in a new direction. But each time you dismiss it, the call feels a little more distant. It's not that He stopped speaking. It's that your heart becomes less attuned to listening. The longer you resist, the harder it is to recognize His guidance when it comes again. You might even start to convince yourself that He's no longer speaking at all. But the truth is He's still there, still calling. The question is, how much more will you miss before you finally listen? Ignoring His warnings doesn't just affect you. It can ripple out into other areas of your life. The opportunities that go untaken aren't just about personal growth. They're often about the people you're meant to reach. By staying where you are, you may miss a chance to impact someone else's life, to share a word or action that could change their path. You might miss out on the connections that would strengthen your faith, the experiences that would deepen your trust in Him. Ignoring His call can limit not only your growth, but also the influence you're meant to have in the world. It's not just your journey that's affected. It's the lives of those who will be touched by your obedience. Eventually, you start to feel the full weight of staying in the wrong place. The struggles become heavier, the frustrations more intense. The clarity you once had is replaced by confusion, and you find yourself longing for the peace and direction you once felt. It's a painful realization, but it's also a necessary one. Recognizing the cost of ignoring his warning is often the first step toward change. It's that moment when you decide enough is enough. When you acknowledge that staying in the same place isn't working and that something has to give, this is a turning point. The moment you stop ignoring the call and start asking what it will take to move forward. From here, it's not about dwelling on the missed opportunities. It's about choosing to respond now. The beauty of God's guidance is that it's always available. No matter how many times you turn away, you can still choose to listen. You can still choose to take that first step, to act in faith and trust that He'll meet you where you are. The journey forward might not be easy, but it's worth it. By responding to His call, you open the door to blessings you thought were lost, to peace you thought you'd never find again, and to a sense of purpose that's been waiting for you all along. Comment ACT if you're ready to step out of the cycle and into His plan. In the next section, we'll look at why God is calling you to move now, not later. Why God is urging you to move right now. There's a distinct energy that comes with divine timing. When God urges you to move, it's not just a subtle suggestion. It's a clear, intentional nudge at the perfect moment. You may have felt it already, that growing sense that something is shifting, that the signs around you are becoming too frequent to ignore, the dreams that leave you with a lingering clarity, the people who enter your life with just the right words at just the right time, even the doors that seem to open without you knocking. These are not coincidences. They're orchestrations. God has been aligning these moments so that you're fully prepared for what comes next. He's been guiding you to this exact point, and now He's asking you to step forward. But why now? The truth is, divine timing doesn't wait for convenience. God doesn't call you when you feel perfectly ready or when every detail is neatly in place. Instead, He calls you when the alignment of events, opportunities, and lessons you've learned all converge into a single pivotal moment. If you ever felt that internal tug, the one that tells you to stop hesitating and start moving, it's because you've reached that moment. Delaying now isn't harmless. It's costly. It means missing out on the very opportunities that God has been preparing for you. The time to move isn't later. It's now, because the circumstances that have come together won't last forever. Think of the Israelites in the wilderness. God led them to the edge of the promised land, and He told them to go forward. But when they hesitated, their delay came at a great price. What should have been a brief journey turned into 40 years of wandering. It wasn't because God changed His mind. It was because they didn't listen when He called them to move. Their hesitation cost them time, progress, and blessings. This isn't to say that God won't still work in your life if you delay, but why lose what's already prepared for you? He's not asking you to wander. He's asking you to move. And when you do, you'll see that He's been making the path clear all along. Sometimes, the signs are so obvious that it almost feels as though God is shouting. The people who have left your life, the opportunities that have appeared out of nowhere, the sudden shifts in your circumstances. None of this is random. You might have wondered why certain friendships ended or why doors you relied on suddenly closed. In those moments, it's easy to feel lost or unsure. But when you step back, you begin to see the pattern. Those exits weren't losses. They were part of the preparation. Those unexpected doors weren't accidents. They were part of the alignment. God has been working behind the scenes, removing what no longer serves you and setting the stage for your next step. Delaying now means staying in a place that no longer fits you. It means clinging to what was instead of walking into what's next. Sometimes we hesitate because we're comfortable where we are, even if it no longer feels right. The thought of stepping into the unknown can be intimidating. You might be thinking, what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? But God isn't looking for perfect readiness. He's looking for willingness. If you wait until every detail feels secure, you'll miss the beauty of trusting Him. This moment, this call, is designed to stretch you, to help you grow, and to show you that He is the one guiding your steps. The path may not be perfectly clear, but the timing is. Now is the time to respond. Every sign, every nudge, every whisper you felt is pointing you toward this moment. The alignment you've been waiting for is here. God has brought you to this point for a reason, and ignoring it means losing what's waiting for you just ahead. Remember, divine timing isn't about convenience. It's about purpose. It's about stepping into something greater, even when it feels uncertain. God's call is not just about you. It's about the people you'll impact, the lessons you'll learn, and the purpose you'll fulfill. By moving now, you're not just answering a call, you're stepping into your destiny. Comment now if you feel the urgency to move when God calls. Next, we'll discuss how to align yourself with His will immediately. How to align yourself with God's will immediately. It's not always easy to align yourself with God's will, especially when the world around you seems determined to pull you in every direction but the right one. Every day, you're bombarded with distractions, work pressures, personal responsibilities, endless notifications, and the constant stream of noise that fills the silence before you can hear His voice. But to truly align yourself with God's plan, the first step is to quiet that noise. Take a moment to unplug from the distractions that keep you from clarity. Turn off the television, put down your phone, and find a quiet space to just be still. In that stillness, you'll begin to hear the whispers of guidance that have been there all along. The noise won't go away entirely, but the more you practice this stillness, the more clearly you'll hear His direction. Doubt is often the next hurdle. It's natural to wonder if you're truly hearing God's voice or if it's just your own thoughts playing tricks on you. Doubt tells you that you're not ready, that the timing is off, or that someone else is better suited to the task. But God doesn't call the perfect. He perfects the called. Even if you don't feel ready, remember that alignment isn't about having all the answers. It's about trust. When you approach Him in prayer, set aside those doubts and simply ask for guidance. And then listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. The answers may not come as a booming voice from the heavens. They may come as a gentle nudge in the right direction, a sense of peace in your soul, or an unexpected confirmation through others. Once you quiet the noise and chosen trust over doubt, action becomes the next step. Too often, people wait for the perfect moment or for every piece to fall into place before they move. But aligning with God's will isn't about perfection. It's about obedience. When you feel the call to take a step, no matter how small, take it, even if it feels inconvenient or uncertain. Remember that God's timing is always perfect. He doesn't call you to act when it's easy. He calls you to act when it's right. It's in the process of moving forward. Even when you're unsure, that you find the blessings and clarity you've been seeking. Faith isn't about seeing the whole staircase. It's about taking the next step. Surrounding yourself with the right people can also make all the difference. When you're trying to align yourself with God's will, it's vital to have a support system that uplifts and encourages you. Seek out mentors, friends, or faith communities that share your values and understand the importance of listening to God's voice. These people can help keep you accountable, offer wisdom, and remind you the bigger picture when the path feels uncertain. Conversely, be mindful of who you allow to influence you. Negative voices or relationships that sow doubt can pull you further from alignment. By intentionally choosing to connect with those who encourage your spiritual growth, you'll find it easier to stay on track and remain aligned with His plan. Alignment also requires ongoing reflection. It's not a one-time decision. It's a continuous process of seeking God's guidance and adjusting your course as needed. Spend time each day in prayer and meditation, asking Him to reveal any areas where you've strayed or where you need clarity. Reflect on the steps you've already taken and look for the subtle ways God is confirming your path. Are you feeling a sense of peace? Are you noticing unexpected opportunities? These are signs that you're on the right track. The more you cultivate a habit of reflection, the more attuned you become to God's guidance, making it easier to stay aligned even when challenges arise. Another important aspect of alignment is humility. Remember that aligning with God's will isn't about achieving a certain level of spiritual perfection. It's about being willing to listen, learn, and grow. Embrace the idea that you don't have to have it all figured out. Let go of the pressure to always make the perfect choice, and instead focus on making the faithful choice. Be open to learning from mistakes, and trust that God's grace will cover you as long as your heart remains devoted to following Him. In humility, you'll find freedom. Freedom to move forward without fear of failure, knowing that God's plan is bigger than any misstep you might take. As you continue this journey, You'll notice that the more you align yourself with God's will, the more your life begins to reflect His purpose. The distractions lose their grip, the doubts quiet down, and the path becomes clearer. You'll find yourself stepping into opportunities that once seemed out of reach, experiencing peace in areas that once felt chaotic, and growing in ways you never thought possible. Alignment isn't about achieving perfection or following a strict formula. It's about staying connected to God's voice, trusting His timing, and taking faithful action. And as you do, you'll discover a life that's not only more fulfilling, but also deeply rooted in His purpose for you. Comment a line if you're ready to say yes to God's plan without hesitation. Stay until the end as we wrap up this powerful message. Embracing patience is a crucial part of alignment. God's timing doesn't always match our own, and that can be challenging. But waiting on His perfect timing isn't just a passive act. It's an active trust. When you resist the urge to rush ahead or take shortcuts, you demonstrate your confidence in His plan. In that waiting, God works behind the scenes, orchestrating circumstances in ways you can't yet see. The ability to wait without losing hope or focus is a testament to your faith. Over time, you'll find that the delays you once resented were actually preparing you for something greater. Another step in alignment is prioritizing God's voice over the noise of the world. In a world filled with distractions and competing opinions, it can be easy to lose sight of what God is calling you to do. The key is to be intentional about quieting those outside influences and tuning into His guidance. Whether through daily scripture reading, moment of stillness, or simply turning off the constant stream of information, creating space for God's voice allows you to stay aligned. As you become more practiced in discerning His will, the noise fades and clarity emerges. Obedience in the small things is often where alignment truly takes root. It's not always about grand gestures or major life changes. Sometimes it's as simple as following through on a prompt to reach out to someone to offer help or to say a kind word. These seemingly small acts of faith build a foundation of trust and reliability. When God sees your willingness to obey in the little things, He can entrust you with greater responsibilities. Over time, these small steps add up, leading you steadily down the path He has prepared. Gratitude also plays a key role in staying aligned with God's will. When you cultivate a heart of thankfulness, you shift your focus from what you lack to what you've been given. Gratitude opens your eyes to the blessings already present in your life and helps you recognize the ways God is working. This perspective shift strengthens your faith and keeps you grounded, making it easier to follow His lead. The more you practice gratitude, the more aligned your thoughts and actions become with God's plan. An important, yet often overlooked, aspect of alignment is trusting God through the trials. Difficulties are not necessarily signs that you've gone astray. Often, they're opportunities for growth and refinement. When challenges arise, trust that God is using them to strengthen your faith and prepare you for the next phase of His plan. Instead of seeing obstacles as roadblocks, view them as stepping stones. Each trial you endure and overcome in faith brings you closer to His purpose, shaping you into the person He created you to be. Consistency is another foundational element of alignment. The more regularly you engage in prayer, reflection, and acts of faith, the more deeply rooted you become in God's will. Consistency isn't about being perfect every day. It's about showing up even when it's difficult. It's about continuing to seek Him, continuing to trust Him, and continuing to move forward. Over time, this steady commitment strengthens your alignment and ensures that your faith remains resilient and unwavering. Letting go of past mistakes is also vital for staying aligned. Dwelling on what went wrong can keep you from moving forward. Instead, acknowledge the lessons you've learned and release any guilt or shame into God's hands. He's not asking for perfection, He's asking for progress. When you let go of the past and focus on the present step He's calling you to take, you free yourself to fully embrace His guidance. This ability to move on in grace is a sign that you're in alignment, trusting God to turn every mistake into something meaningful. Finally, choosing faith over fear solidifies your alignment. Fear often tempts us to retreat or second-guess the path we're on, but aligning with God's will mean stepping forward, even when you're uncertain or afraid. Faith doesn't eliminate fear. It allows you to act in spite of it. With each step of faith, you grow stronger and more confident in God's plan. If you're ready to embrace this purpose, don't stop here. Subscribe to stay connected. Share this message with those who need encouragement, and leave a comment to let us know how this resonates with you. By engaging with this community, you're not only solidifying your own path, but helping others find theirs as well. Together, we can rise into our calling and walk forward with confidence. The journey continues, and the best is yet to come.